Lisa Gardner is back with another novel featuring the character Frankie Elkin. This time, Frankie goes undercover to find the missing younger sister of a female serial killer. Stay tuned. Ahead, I'll talk with Lisa Gardner about Still See You Everywhere. Hi, I'm Dan Skinner, and this is Some Books Considered. Lisa Gardner is an award-winning and #1 New York Times best-selling thriller novelist with over 30 million copies of her books in print worldwide. She joins us to talk about her 28th book and the third to feature Frankie Elkin. Lisa, welcome to Some Books Considered.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's great to be talking again.
Well, this is the third novel to feature this character, Frankie Elkin. So before we talk about this specific novel, tell us more about Frankie.
Sure. I got inspired to write the Frankie books a couple years ago when I read an article about a woman in the real world who became frustrated with the number of women that were going missing on tribal lands that no one was even looking for. So she took it upon herself to search, and lo and behold, in many cases, like in one particular case, it was a young mom. She'd actually driven off the road into a lake and, passed away, but the police had her listed as a runaway. Her daughter was going to grow up thinking her mother had abandoned her, and that's not what had happened at all. And it really brings to home closure families need, and it also brings to home the hundreds of thousands of people out there that no one is searching for at all. So that is the inspiration for Frankie Elkin. She's an everyday average person like you and me, but she is now obsessed with solving missing persons cold cases, particularly for minorities and marginalized communities who are so often overlooked by law enforcement.
So tell us a bit more about Frankie's backstory. What is it about her personality, her experience that drives her to want to find missing people?
I love Frankie. She's been so refreshing to me because she's not law enforcement. I'm known for FBI profilers, for, a detective Dee Dee Warren, and now I have an everyday person. So why? Why would anyone be doing this? And I'm not sure I have the answer yet. But in Frankie's case, she's a recovering alcoholic. She grew up with an alcoholic father. She has, spent most of her life making some poor life choices. She knows what jail looks like. She knows what it's like to wake up in the morning with a great deal of regrets. What she has discovered in her search for sobriety is somewhat immersing herself in other people's problems. Having a mission each day keeps her from drinking. But it also means she has no permanent address. She has no stable job. She has no long-term relationship. She doesn't even have a cat. And so from an outsider's perspective, is she adulting correctly? Has she truly grown up? Has she solved her problems, or is she just running away to solve other people's problems? She has a lot of doubts and questions herself. She's very vulnerable. In some ways, she knows she's broken. But on the other hand, this is working for her, and it gives her a reason to get up each morning.
So what do you think it is about this character that readers identify with?
I think what people love about Frankie is she's so flawed, and she's so aware of her flaws, but she's still trying. She's trying all the time. She's not really sure where she's going. She's not even really sure why she's doing it. But she's just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other and hope that someday, she'll arrive at that spot that we all magically considered happy. I think also, though, she challenges that notion, and I think readers like that. We're growing up in this day and age of social media, TV, everyone telling us what success is supposed to look like, what real life is supposed to look like, what, happiness is supposed to look like. And I think Frankie's starting to understand, and yet not for her. The rest of you can take that model, but it's okay if you find just what works for yourself. That is success enough.
So tell us about this latest novel, because Frankie is tasked eventually, when she decides to take this case on, with something that's a bit different for her.
Even by Frankie's standards, this is a weird one. She is actually summoned to death row to meet a female serial killer who will be executed in 3 weeks' time. The beautiful butcher killed 18 guys, and if she could get out tomorrow, would be more than happy to do it again. So guilt and innocence, not really an issue there. However, 15 years ago, her baby sister, whom she dearly loved, was kidnapped from Hawaii. The beautiful butcher just got word her sister might still be alive. She is desperate for someone to try to find her so that she can go to her own death knowing her baby sister is safe. It's not the kind of case the police will take, so she reaches out to Frankie.
Well, this is interesting because the sister who's in jail for murder, you can say she has daddy issues to begin with.
A little bit, just a tad.
Just a little bit. But she still cares about her sister. And even though the sister's been missing, I think this book still has something to say about the power of family and the power of sibling relationships.
Well, and also her baby sister is the only one she truly loved. And some of her violence, some of her rage, some of her pain that has driven the beautiful butcher to do such horrific things is because she lost her sister, because she wasn't able to protect her, because the one person she loved, she wasn't able to keep. And that kind of helped also set the stage for a bunch of, again, really terrifying and terrible acts. But you can relate to her in some ways. Like Frankie is kind of surprised. It's not that she likes the beautiful butcher, but you can respect her love for her sister and her really true, genuine need to know that she's safe.
Because she's an interesting character, totally without remorse. In fact, she seems to kind of enjoy and relish, I really fooled these guys. They had no idea what was coming and no remorse whatsoever. But as you say, at the same time, you feel a little empathy for her because there are glimpses of the hurt behind that facade. And I'm wondering, in developing that character, why was it important for us to see that side of the beautiful butcher?
So when I first started out writing, it was when the serial killers were big. So my first series written 20 some years ago was with FBI profilers. So I spent a lot of time interviewing with FBI profilers, reading about serial killers. And I do find all of that psychology fascinating. There are many reasons why we see serial predators, and particularly more men than women. In the case of the beautiful butcher, you're looking for someone who probably there is a genetic predisposition to violence, to say the least, but it's also the cycle of violence. She and her sister were born into a very dysfunctional and extremely abusive father. At a certain point, the beautiful butcher kind of looked around and said, I can spend my life being predator or prey. And she decided she never wanted to be prey again. In its own way, you can respect that and you can understand that kind of decision making.
I'm talking with Lisa Gardner about Still See You Everywhere, and our conversation continues in a moment. If you're enjoying this discussion, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and click on the bell so you'll know when I post new interviews with authors. And thank you. Well, Frankie takes on this case, and it leads her to a tropical island. Tell us about sort of the thought process behind choosing that location for the book.
So this is the first time I actually approached a book with a location first. I had the unique opportunity 2 years ago to go to a remote atoll in the Pacific. It's inhabited only by a research station, 12 people. They're actually doing work on reviving coral and getting great results, for the record. So you go to Hawaii. It's a 3-hour charter flight. Beyond that, or 2 weeks by boat. You are totally off the grid. You are totally disconnected from help. It's considered a 3-day minimum for medical evac. So they prefer you have to have a doctor's note. They prefer you not to have an appendix. This is a location where many, many things can go wrong very quickly. So we fly into what you think is going to be paradise. And I just remember watching the charter plane leave and realizing, oh my God, I really am in the middle of nowhere, no cell phone, no Wi-Fi, no internet, with 12 people that are total strangers to me, and I do still have my appendix, and then there's crabs everywhere. And you start realizing, oh yeah, there is no hope of rescue, no chance of escape in this environment. And oh my God, is that not perfect for a thriller? It's like you had to put someone there and have bad things happen. And that became Frankie. Poor Frankie. She got to learn all about coconut crabs.
So you had the firsthand experience of being there to draw upon. But as you developed this story, what were some of the research challenges that this one faced for you?
Well, the other thing, too, is I think it's important in the Frankie Elkin books that we are true to her mission, which is she's trying to serve communities that are unrecognized many times. And Hawaii is a big one. We know there are huge issues with human trafficking in Hawaii, and a shocking amount of Native Hawaiian females are disappearing. But it's not even being tracked right now. It's one of those things, again, you can find a lot of articles on from the Department of Justice. So yes, a 5-year-old Hawaiian girl disappearing is the kind of case that wouldn't necessarily get attention. And that was reason enough alone to bring Frankie to, paradise. Because it's important to also remember there's dark edges to paradise. Crime happens everywhere, even when there's palm trees and white sandy beaches, and someone needs to help them, and that becomes Frankie's goal.
Now, as an author, you do a lot of research for a book. And I've talked with a number of authors, and they say the stack of research will be this big, but I can only use this much in the novel. So how do you find that balance between maybe wanting to share all this that but you can't bog down the narrative. You have to serve the story first.
Oh yeah, I'm terrible. I'm like I've been writing 30 years now, and 30 years later, I'm still what I call the Goldilocks writer. The first draft I put it all in. I'm like a student who wants to show off. Look at all the homework I did. Look at all the things I learned. And then you go back and you read that and you realize, oh my God, the pacing's awful. And everyone's zoning out by the 4th page on, the life cycle of coconut crabs. So then you go back and it's like, okay, remember, this is a thriller. This is to entertain. So I pare all the stuff back down, and then all of a sudden you don't even understand it at all. So the third time I get it just right. And I would like to say, you'd think I could then, utilize that as a skill to bring it to future novels. But no, each and every book, too little, too much, third time. Okay.
It's your process now. That's how it works.
It's my process. Thank you. See, as an artistic person, you like to throw out phrases like that. It's not that I'm incompetent. It's my process.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to boil it down to you finally get to the final product. It sounds like you actually enjoy doing the research. And so
Very much.
How does that play into your writing mysteries? Do you enjoy sort of solving things and learning about things?
I really love puzzles. That brings me to mysteries and suspense in general, to create some complicated crime situation. And then, I have to keep writing to figure out the situation. But I'm also character driven. It's the psychology of crime. Why does someone like the beautiful butcher exist? Why human trafficking? What happens to those victims? Can you rehabilitate them? When you have 12 people who like to live off the grid as a lifestyle, they only go to remote locations as contract workers. Why? Is there things we should know about them? Is there possibilities of things they want to hide? All of those questions are fascinating to me. And the best part of my job is it means I have a good excuse to call up experts, from police to profilers to psychologists to spoke to many people about, Native Hawaiian culture, and start to get some answers to these questions and hopefully bring them to you.
Lisa, there's a question I like to ask authors about fiction, and it's this. If you could spend a day in real life with one of the characters from this novel, who would it be and why?
Oh, fun. I actually love the beautiful butcher, but you wouldn't want to spend any time with her. On the remote atoll, Frankie meets an architect. She's the one in charge of this project that, in theory, this atoll in fiction is going to be turned into an eco resort. And her name is Aolani. And she is fierce and successful and kick-ass. And Frankie has like this incredible crush on her. Like, I want to be her when I grow up, like that empowered, that strong, that capable. And I have to say, I would love to spend a day just following a woman like that around and seeing what makes her tick and what is her secret to that kind of confidence and success.
So, Lisa, what's next for you?
I'm actually working on the next Frankie novel. One of the advantages of all this travel is not only do I go to cool places, but I meet cool people. And I met a couple last year who volunteer to help settle Afghan refugees in Tucson. And oh my goodness, the issues, the heartbreak, the challenges. By the time I was done talking to them, I was like, and this is the next place Frankie must go. And it turns out I love Afghani food. So again, great excuses for research.
Absolutely. The novelist Still See You Everywhere by Lisa Gardner. Lisa, thank you for talking with me today.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Now, if you'd like to purchase Still See You Everywhere, I've placed a link for you in the description below. And if you'd like to see more videos about books and their authors on a wide variety of topics, be sure to subscribe, like, and click on the bell to be notified about future programs. I'm Dan Skinner. Thank you for watching this edition of Some Books Considered.